Hello, everyone. Welcome to Biology 120 here at SNHU. This is an introductory biology course called Biology 120. Some of you may be taking the lab, some of you may not. If you do take the lab, it does coordinate with the lecture weeks, so that is awesome. We are going to study about everything from what exactly is life and how we define life, to cells, to DNA, to genetics, to ecosystems, and finally we end up the course with some human population ecology and how we expect the human population to reach 9 billion people in the world in the very near future, and then after that 10 billion. So we've got a lot to learn this term. This first week you're going to learn about what it means to be alive. So let's see what we've got going on. I do want to explain that every week I will be making and posting these videos. I either post them on Sunday night or Monday morning. They're always in the computer by Monday at lunchtime. And I try to give you tips. I talk to you about the biology for this particular week to try to help you understand terms and ideas that we have going on in the week. I give you tips about the assignments. I give you things that I'm looking for in the assignments. And I remind you about due dates, things like that. So these are really important to watch every week so that you follow the instructions correctly and you learn the material properly. All right, that being said, I will also subject you to some of my photography. If you've watched my introductory video, you know that I like digital photography, and so I have pictures behind me. I have pictures in the PowerPoint here. You'll be seeing these through the term. Okay, the first thing to do is find your textbook. So your textbook is an OpenStax textbook. It is a free textbook online. All you have to do is Google OpenStax, OPENSTAX, Biology 2nd Edition. That is your textbook. Now, it is a great resource, and so I want you to use it. It is searchable. So instead of just doing a Google search, how many of y'all are going to do that anyway? I don't know. But don't do that. Don't do a Google search on Mendelian genetics. Do you know how much you're going to pull up and how much misinformation is out there? Just go to your textbook. It is searchable. Type in a term. It will show you every time that term is found in the textbook. Okay? So read chapter 1 in your textbook for this week. It's all about an introduction to biology as a science. Biology is the study of life. So the first thing we're going to learn about is, well, how do you define life? Because that's kind of important. There are 2 videos to watch, one on the scientific method and one about what is life. And that's a really good one. So do watch both of those and read the article on the giant viruses that have been discovered, also called Pandora viruses, and they have other names too. Now, one thing that I want to say, my background is microbiology. I am also a biologist, but I'm also a microbiologist. And microbiologists do not consider viruses to be alive, and that's because they do not meet all the criteria of life. They don't reproduce on their own. They don't carry out any biochemistry on their own. They have to hijack a cell in order to carry out any kind of functions whatsoever. They don't make ATP, which is the energy molecule of cells. They don't carry out any metabolism. There are just so many things that they don't do that you can't really consider them as living. So read this article on the giant viruses, where they have come from, how big they are, and how interesting they are because they have so many genes that we've never even seen before, and they make so many proteins that we've never seen before. So the 2 things that you have to do this week are discussion board posts, and that is a total of 3 of those, and then 1 journal entry, and I will talk about the journal entry in just a minute. Your discussion board posts. Your initial post is due by Thursday night. And in this post, you're going to introduce us to you and tell us your background. What are your career goals? What do you expect to do? What's your degree program? Your hobbies, your living situation. Where do you live? Anything that you want to share with us to help us understand who you are. And then how this course is going to help you with your new career. If you're going to be a physician's assistant, if you're going to be an environmental scientist, whatever it is, how is this introductory biology course going to help you? And then you're going to also explain why the scientific method is important in biology. That means you have to know what the scientific method is. So go and take a look at that in your chapter 1. And I will say that this is a very simplified version of how science happens. For example, the one thing that they don't tell you in the beginning is that you have to do a tremendous amount of background research to figure out everything you can about your topic before you set about making up an experiment to do. You have to know the whole biology and all the chemistry that's going on in your particular system that you're interested in before you get started. So that background research takes you months, maybe even years before you can design a good experiment. Yes, you do experiments. That is true. If you're lucky in a biology class, you will replicate this experiment. If you're really lucky, you'll do it 3 times. Okay, this is not how science works. You repeat your experiments over and over and over and over and over again to make sure that you are getting consistent results so that you can say with certainty that this is what's causing that. Okay, so that's very important. You don't just replicate 3 times and say, okay, I made a gigantic discovery. And then finally, the end of the scientific method is publishing your results for other scientists to view, critique, replicate, to do on their own. That's a very important part of the process. Your peers have to look at your work and decide whether it's good, whether it's correct, whether you come to the right conclusions. And that can destroy your ego, basically, if you turn in your work, because I have done that, and it is a terrifying process. Okay, here's my work. Here's what I think about it. Now destroy it. But that's part of the scientific process, and that also keeps everybody honest. Okay, so that's the scientific method. And you're going to give us an example of how you use that scientific method in your everyday life. From figuring out something on your phone to figuring out why your light doesn't come on, or why your car won't run, or whatever. Okay, so give us an everyday example. And then you're going to respond to 2 of your fellow classmates by Sunday night at midnight. And you're going to talk about what you have in common with that person. And you're also going to share tips, tricks, resources that you have used to help you be successful in your college life. Is it the Shapiro Library? Is it your instructor? Is it the discussion board? Is it the Amoeba Sisters videos? Whatever it is that you use. Okay, those are the discussion board posts. Then you're also going to complete a journal entry. So a journal entry is like an essay that you write about some questions that are posed to you in the instructions. So make sure you read the instructions. Make sure you watch the video about defining life, because that's important and that will help you with this journal entry. The first thing that you have to know is, what are the properties of life? And here I have them listed from your textbook. Now, there are lots of different lists. I have seen so many over the years that I've taught biology. Some lists only have 4 properties of life. Some have 8. Your overview has 9 because they pulled apart regulation and homeostasis as 2 different criteria for life. So just quickly, I'll go through these. Order is that there is order to life. So there are cells that contain organelles that contain molecules, and then tissues are made of cells, and organs are made of tissues, etc., etc. So you get organisms, and then you have ecosystems, right? There's order to life. There's sensitivity and response to stimuli. So an organism has to be able to respond to what is going on in the environment. Because if they don't, how do they know to get out of the way of a predator? How do they keep from being eaten? There are lots of different responses that you can have to stimuli. Reproduction, of course, this is tremendously important. You have to be able to carry on life. So reproduction is important. Adaptation is changing. And this really means adaptation of populations. So populations change over time in response to environments. Growth and development, so getting bigger, developing and increasing in cell number, developing, changing over time. This is easy when you're talking about a human being because you can understand how that works. But if you're talking about bacteria, okay, a bacterium is a single-celled organism. It's going to grow from this to this much. So there's growth and development that happens, but they don't increase in cell number and that sort of thing. They grow a different way. Regulation and homeostasis. Homeostasis is regulating what comes in and goes out of a cell or an organism to respond to the environment, but to keep that cell alive. So example, your temperature. Our temperature as human beings is regulated by a system in our bodies that keeps us at a particular temperature. If it gets too high or too low, then we're going to have problems, right? Energy processing. Every single cell on the planet uses the molecule ATP, adenosine triphosphate, to fuel all of its chemical reactions. This is energy processing. You take in food, you make ATP molecules so that you can do the stuff that you need to do as an organism. And then finally, we have evolution, which is a change in genes in a population over time. This is essential for life because organisms have to be able to change over time in populations in order to survive for the long term. That's evolution. Okay, so you're going to do that journal entry and upload that by Sunday evening. All right, some tips and tricks for the whole term. Watch my videos in the announcements. Some weeks I have more than one, but usually I make one that I put in on Sunday night or Monday morning. So be watching for those to help you. Deadlines are very important. You have two deadlines in this course, Thursdays and Sundays. Thursdays, your initial post is due in the discussion board every single week until we get to week 7. Then Sundays, everything else is due. Your 2 response posts, your journal entries, your milestones, your final project. When we get that far, everything's due on Sunday. Okay, then you also need to follow the guidelines and rubric for each assignment. So guidelines, of course, are how you do the thing that you have to do. What questions do you answer for your final project? What sections are there? The rubric is a way to grade this particular assignment. So a lot of the time, these two go together because it's what you do and then how you get graded. There are these documents for every one of your assignments, guidelines and rubrics, okay? So you need to look at these to know what I'm looking for and how I'm going to grade everything. They are posted along with your assignments right there. They're everywhere, and I will remind you of these as we go along to make sure that you do your assignments correctly. I leave feedback when I do grading, and so you need to read that feedback. This is especially important when you start working on parts of your final project. You're going to have 3 milestones, parts of your project, that you turn in over the term, And it is very important to read the feedback that I give so that you can make corrections before you put all of these together for your final project. Label everything. Label the title of whatever this thing is that you're turning in. Your journal entry 1-2, final project 7-2 on water pollution. Put your name on it, put the date on it, put my name on it, Dr. Sigmon, course number, Bio 120, label everything. Label your files. Oh my goodness, how many students do I see get their files mixed up because they don't have adequate labeling for the file name? So even label your file names, because of course I see that too, and that tells me if you're turning in the right thing or not. And for the rest of the course, from now on, if you are in doubt, if you have any problems that come up, if you have any issues that you're having to deal with, if you don't understand something, if you just don't get it, ask me. m.sigmon@snhu.edu. That is my email address. I'm here for you. I want you to succeed. I want you to pass this class. I want you to make an A in this class. So when you are in doubt, all you have to do is ask me, and I am constantly checking my email. I promise you I will email you back as fast as I possibly can. We're in this together. I'm here to help you learn. I'm here to help you learn some biology. It's my passion in life, so I hope I pass it along to you, and I'm here to help you. So just call on me, okay? I hope that you have a great week. Let me know if you need anything.